Hey guys, me again. Sorry I've been gone for a few days. I've been researching a lot of stuff and basically sleeping a lot. Um, so sorry, he's gonna go in and out, whatever. First of all, I realized in my last video, uh, when I picked him up and put him down, I said something like, "But you gotta sit down," and it sounded like something else. So believe me, I wasn't calling him a bee. It's just, anyway. So I walked down to the store tonight because I still haven't got my car fixed. And I mean, it was like 58 degrees. But to me, that was cold. By the time I got back, I felt really cold. And that was with like leggings on underneath and um, multiple shirts and a jacket. And so it hit me again. I'm going to do other videos that concern stuff about childhood trauma and other things, but I'm going to keep pushing about homelessness. So, right now, I looked at the forecast, and I did this a lot when I was working with the homeless, and I haven't a lot lately unless I've been outside, but so now I've been paying attention, and tonight it's going to get to 40 degrees. If you guys remember in school, like freezing is 32 degrees. So stuff will freeze and our bodies are made with the majority of our bodies are water. So I looked up hypothermia because like I stated before, I had been working with the homeless for the past 4.5 years. And there's the things that I saw, like I have memories. Oh, one of the very first memories I have is we were going into camps and asking people if they needed help. And there was this woman who stepped out and had on those little jelly shoes. Remember those from like the 80s, I believe? Like they're from my childhood. And like nothing else on her feet. And here I was in my Under Armour and multiple layers of things and gloves and earmuffs and there's something that goes through your mind when you see somebody else that is so cold, but she didn't feel it because she was beyond hypothermia. So I'm going to read off like the symptoms of hypothermia because I think people forget that aren't out there and don't realize that there are human beings on our streets, in our woods, like just huddled up next to buildings that are trying to stay warm because they have nowhere else to go. And I understand that people will say there are shelters or, that was their choice. No, our shelter in town that the city paid for and bought holds like the maximum, I think it's 88 people. They might push it to 90 or 92, but that's with cots that are like this far away from each other. Cots. And there's nowhere else for people to go. The shelters are full. Like homelessness is increasing and increasing and increasing. Like COVID started it and it's just never gotten any easier. So there are not options for people. There's not a lot of options. The way that our shelter works is if you go, you have to stand in line and wait until 6:30. No matter what the temperature is outside. Not until 6:30 will the door open. And then it's based on if there's a spot available. Now, if you get a spot and you keep going back every single night, then you can keep that bed. But if you miss because you couldn't get back, because something happened to you, because you got assaulted and you were late, that will be given to somebody else. And then there is no other option. So we have people that are huddled everywhere. Um, so anyway, the symptoms of hypothermia, and this is when the definition I looked up, it's a drop in body temperature to less than 95 degrees Fahrenheit as a result of exposure to cold weather or a natural environment. So tonight it's going to be 40 degrees. I'm sure people are, getting ready, bringing their plants inside, doing things like you're going to get ready to like wrap pipes because stuff freezes. So it is November now, and it is going to be cold. And in other parts of the country, I know I've lived there, it stays colder longer, and it's already snowing and it's already colder. But right here where I live, in the middle of the United States, The temperatures in the daytime is like in the 60s, and at nighttime is hitting the 40s. So the symptoms: uncontrollable shivering, weakness, numbness, glassy stare, apathy, impaired judgment, slow or slurred speech, exhaustion, loss of consciousness, and bright red skin. So this is what happens to a person when they experience hypothermia. Now imagine you're experiencing this and you show up to somewhere where they say, oh, you have to be sober. Well, you might have slurred speech, maybe because of drugs, but maybe because you're in hypothermia. Like you might be apathetic and not be numb to everything, and people might judge. But it's ridiculous that we have so many people on the streets because there is nowhere else for them to go, because our country doesn't seem to care about its fellow man. It's becoming more and more who has the most money. It's great for the people that can afford housing, that can buy, but a lot of people that can't are stuck in renting. We have where people can get vouchers through HUD. And we have landlords that will not accept them. I mean, a full year's rent and a portion of utilities, and they will not accept them. We tried every incentive. We tried to give them an extra $500 if they helped out a person. We tried having meetings. We tried talking to them about, what do you need in order to give this person a chance to be housed? And it basically has come down to if they want to or not, like their personal judgment. And if you think about, like nobody has a perfect record. Nobody, if people knew your darkest moments, your mistakes, and then said, oh, based on this, nope, sorry, we can't rent to you. The city tried implementing things, and then the landlords just work their way around it. Like, yeah, we'll accept that voucher if the person has, 2 or 3 months worth of rent in their bank accounts and a credit score of 600 and above. And I mean, logic is if they had those things, they wouldn't need a voucher. So we had, when I was working with them, we had anywhere from 60 to 70 people walking around with vouchers, with saying like, I qualified for this and I got this money to help me out, but like landlords wouldn't accept it. So I just want people to think about that tonight. Like I said, go outside. Go outside when you let your dog out, or when you forgot that you need to bring the trash can back up or something. Like, pay attention to your body. You guys put on coats to just run to the curb. It's cold outside. People are freezing outside. They don't have options. They don't have anywhere to go. Even when they lay down, they have cops that come along and say, you can't stay here. You can't stay here. It doesn't matter where. We have a hate group that goes through the woods and, goes through people's camps and breaks them up. And then the cops come. And I mean, some people get themselves intentionally thrown in jail just so they can be warm. Some people get out of prison and say, might as well go back because it doesn't seem like society wants to help me and it's freezing cold outside. So I'm just appealing to those of you who are out there who, haven't realized because you haven't been in that situation. Think about any time in your life when you've been outside and it's been cold, standing outside for a concert, standing outside before Christmas, before Black Friday, when people wait in line so that they can get the best deals. Like, it's cold, isn't it? So if you guys you don't even have to go buy new things. Like I have said, maybe hand warmers if you want to buy stuff. There's hand warmers in Walmart, other places, back in the sporting goods section. There are gloves. There's things called emergency blankets. Like look in the hunting and survival section. There are things intended for people if they get stuck outside or if they have to be in extreme temperatures. You could do that. But if you can't afford to go buy things, and you just have like extra coats sitting around your house, extra, undergarments, like leggings, undershirts, things, they need layers. They need things to keep their body warm, because hypothermia means that you can't heat up your body. Your body is losing more heat than it can make. So, please remember this and think about your fellow man. Because like I stated before, the state that we're in this economy, you don't know if tomorrow you might lose your job because some computer took it over, or because the government came in and said, oh, we just deemed that your job is no longer necessary. And there's no funding for you to get help anymore for your bills that you already have. There's no extra money for the car payment that you can't make. So try to be kind. Try to think about a person outside, not just, reading about it in the newspaper the next day of, oh, this person froze to death. Because that you could have done something about it whenever you could have. You don't know people's stories. You don't know what they've been through. We have people on the streets that will tell you, yes, some of this was me, but some of this was done to me. And I've seen it. I've seen it in places of people want help. They ask for help and they can't get it. I'm going to start with, what I did in meetings. I would go to meetings and I would, homelessness would come up. And people would start saying little things about, people that maybe didn't work with the homeless population on a daily basis. And they would say, this judgment or whatever. And I would raise my hand and I would wait until they came. And, I would say, imagine you drop foot in this town because you got out of prison, or your parents kicked you out, or you came here to be with a significant other and then they changed their mind and then they left you or they kicked you out. Like, imagine in this town, if you need a proof of address in order to get an ID, in order to go to certain places because you have to have an ID, it takes 2 weeks. The day center here, you have to do it 14 visits. You have to show up 14 different times before they will hand you a piece of paper that says you can use this as a mailing address. Now imagine you're trying to get Social Security. You're trying to get all of this help, but you don't have anywhere for them to mail it to because you don't have family that can take that mail for you. Or you do, and they've just decided, no, we don't want to help you anymore. Now, some people say, yes, it's my fault because I did whatever in the past. But some people are like, I've apologized and I've done this. And, they don't have anything to do with me. We have people that have family in the same exact town and don't help them. I have people in this town that I thought that called me family and that I thought were friends that didn't want to help me, that didn't care what I was going through. I mean, I'm walking around. And I have somebody that claimed that they cared about me that obviously doesn't care. So anyway, you're trying to get the proof of address so you can do things, and you have to wait 2 weeks. A lot of stuff can happen in 2 weeks on the streets. That's like an eternity because they're living 1 minute to the next. So once you get that, you can go get your ID, but you don't have any money because now you can't panhandle. Nobody will hire you without an ID or a proof of address. So you go to the place where they'll give you funding. That place will give you a voucher to get your ID once every 5 years. So let's say you've had something happen in the past 5 years, or you've lost your ID. That's too bad. You don't have it anymore. Then let's say you did, though, that you got that. You go over to the DMV and, first you got to get your birth certificate. So you go to get your birth certificate. Now, if you were born in this state, you can go to the health department and get it. But if you weren't, it takes months and months and months. Anybody ever tried getting a replacement birth certificate from another state? It takes forever. I mean, mine, I was from a different state. It took weeks. But some places you have to have the ID to show that it's you to get your birth certificate. So let's just say, like in the perfect world, that all that worked out and you finally got your ID. And you go to use that to sign up for housing or something. And then it gets stolen. Your bag gets stolen because you try to go into some place to use the bathroom and they say, sorry, you can't bring your bags in here. But you don't have anywhere to put that bag because there's no lockers anywhere in the state in the city. Like there are some at the day center, but that's based on if you got permission for it, if they have enough of them, whatever. I've seen people get turned down for it. So let's say then you get your bag gets stolen. Let's say in that bag is where you had your meds because you're on meds because of the stuff you've been through. Because people say get help, get mental health help, or get medical help. Let's say you have your meds in that bag, they get stolen. Then your insurance will only pay to refill your meds one time a year. After that, sorry. So then you'll have to wait again to get your ID to get the meds that you need replaced. But then your insurance may or may not, depending on if you've had it stolen before. Because, desperate people do desperate things. Some people steal because they think, there's something in the bag that would help them. Some people do it because I personally think, and I would tell my clients, like, people feel out of control. And so the only form of control that they have is they can take. Not that it's right, but that's what happens. So then all of this stuff is happening to you. And your emotions are all over the place because you're trying to do the things that places tell you to do. You're trying to do the things that governments tell you to do, that agencies tell you to do. You're trying to do all these things, and it doesn't matter what you do. There's like some barrier that comes into place, some rule that you can't do. We had meetings where the jail would say, well, we need to diagnose everybody because they don't know, and they charge them, which they shouldn't. I told them, all of my clients know exactly what their diagnoses were. They know exactly their medications. They know exactly what they need. They know exactly what they've been taking. It's just that they can't get the help. Let's say you go, perfect world. You didn't get anything stolen. You're trying to go to your appointments and stuff. And you can't get anybody to take you to your appointment. You're walking around in shoes that don't fit you because the one place in town where you can get free clothing vouchers doesn't have your size. We do have a group in town that started several years ago that became a nonprofit that helps and does shoe drives and does other things. But let's say you don't know about that group yet because you're just brand new and you're just trying to do everything. And you try to go get help and they do an assessment, they bill your insurance, and then they tell you, okay, well, we can see you for therapy in 3 months. A lot of stuff can happen in 3 months. People can die in 3 months. People can be traumatized even worse in 3 months. I personally had clients and other people that stuff happened overnight. The stuff happened in an hour. People ask me, how did you know how to find people and stuff? I would ask people, like, where do you hang out? Okay, so we're going to make this appointment for this place. If I came here and something happened to you, and let's say the cops told you to move. Let's say you got in a fight with somebody. Let's say, anything. You got scared. Where would you go next? And they would tell me, well, I would go down to this place. And then I said, okay, well, let's say I went that place because you weren't at the first place and something happened there. Where would be the next place that I could find you? And then people would act like it's like this miraculous thing that I know where people are. But I said, no, people, when you get into the routine-based, predictable, I would know where they are because they told me, if I'm not here, I'm going to be here. And if I'm not here, I'm going to be here. But I was also one of those people that said, we need people, we need caseworkers and helpers that go out where the people are. If you walk around all day long, And everywhere you go, you're told, you can't stay here. You can't sit here. Don't be here. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. Like, then you're going to be tired. And other people might think it's not that far. It's like a mile down the road. Yeah, that's exhausting when people have been walking and walking and walking and walking in shoes that don't fit them, or that are wore out, the treads are completely, or that have medical conditions that hurt them. So you have to like go out within the community. You have to go to the people to help them. So let's just say you do that. And so now you've got to sit around and figure out what am I supposed to do for months until I get help? What am I supposed to do if I can't see a therapist right away or a psychiatrist right away? Like, how do I function with chaos going on around? Because when people are in trauma, they're in chaos. It's traumatic. It sends you all over the place. You don't know what to do, what to think, what to feel. You get in survival brain, fight, flight, or freeze. And for a lot of people, they're fighters. Why? Because they had to fight. They had to fight throughout their childhood. They had to fight in their youth. They had to fight throughout their adulthood. Like, they were raised in chaos. They went through war at home. And then they went through war on the outside. I think that our society forgets that a lot of times. Is, just like veterans that have been to war have PTSD, like children and trauma survivors have CPTSD, complex PTSD, multiple things. And I think that we need to address that a lot more. Is, these people are outside at the I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. At the whim, I don't know, like of the environment. Like they have no choice but to be there. Because even the programs that will help don't have enough workers. Because somehow our healthcare industry, people got burned out. I've seen it in places where I just want to go, like, if you don't like people and you don't want to help people, like, maybe you should get out of social work, because there's social in that portion. You're going to meet people. I would have clients that would tell me, like, when we went in places, they would say, like, that sounded racist to me. And I say, why that did? Because that was. Or, that person seemed like they were talking down to me. Yeah, because they were. And I don't know why. Maybe they're insecure or something. But, that's not you. That's not on you. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's just disheartening. And it makes those of us trying to help, like, very upset, because the blame gets put on the homeless population. This is the way they are, or they're all acting crazy, they're all acting angry, they're all acting volatile. And, I'd be like, well, how would you act if somebody treated you that way? So I would go through this whole thing of, you go here, you go there, you go this, and, and they're trying to do all this. But if you get everything stolen from you, if you get everything taken away from you, and then you have to start back at one, you have to start back and start. Over and over and over and over. Some people eventually give up and they say, well, forget it. Like, nobody wants to help me, or like, what's the point? Because I keep trying, but if I don't have anywhere to put my bags and I don't have anywhere to lay my head and get some sleep, then I give up from trying. And like I stated before, like, I don't want to see people give up. I don't want people to feel like, humanity doesn't care, because we do, but it just seems like a lot of people aren't acting like it. So if you care, try to help out, because like I said, I would go to meetings and I would talk and talk and talk, and I mean, at one, the moderator came over and like was like, okay, let me take that away, you know, because I was getting like worked up and heated from people not telling the truth. Um, our jails don't give people rides to places, to shelters. Our our city doesn't enforce things. You know, our some of our cops say they care, and I've seen cops like mock people and make fun of them or just harass them for, you can't sit here on a bench downtown. That if they didn't know that person was homeless, like they would never approach anybody else and ask that. But it's like intimidation tactics, and I don't know what needs to be done. But how long, if that stuff happened to you, if you called everybody that you knew that you thought loved you and they didn't help you, or they shamed you and guilted you and everything else, you'd eventually stop calling, wouldn't you? If you did all of the things that they tell you, this is what you need to do. You need to sign up for housing and you need to try to get some help. And no matter what you did, it was, we can't help you. You don't qualify. You need this and this and this first before we can even help you to feel safe, physically, with some shelter so you can get some sleep, or we can't help you with food. Like I stated before, we have one place for lunch from 12 to 1. We have one place for dinner from 4:30 to, I believe, 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock. That's it. Those are your options. If you have a doctor's appointment that you have to go to within the hours of lunchtime, you miss lunch and there's no other option. And if you don't have food stamps, because either they're not giving them out, or it hasn't come through yet, or your card got stolen, so you don't have the card to get food stamps. Or let's say you have a conviction from 20 or 30 years ago that makes you not be able to qualify for food, then people are going to be desperate. And I tell people, how long would it be before any of you had any kind of addiction to anything? To any kind of drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or, any kind of addictive behavior. Because that reward center in the brain wants something. Like wants to feel good for a little second. And the majority of the time that people have these, that I've seen, that I've witnessed, that I've listened to from people who did, is because they're not trying to feel good. They're just trying to not feel bad. And the absence of a negative is not a positive. The absence of a negative is just numb. It's just at zero. If you can even get to that, if they can even get out of feeling bad. But like I said, even the signs of hypothermia, a lot of those signs, medical professionals would see and say, oh, that person is using, or that person is this, or that person is that. And it's ridiculous, the prejudgments. I've seen medical professionals that left people in pain assuming they were using. And then when testing came back, it was true, they weren't. I've seen places where people have gone that nurses chewed them out and said, you are using, I know you are, and they weren't. But even if they are, like, it's the duty and responsibility to help out. So while it's getting colder, because I think in winter people experience it more. In summer you can take off layers a lot easier. In wintertime, like sometimes you just can't get warm enough at all. Like you just can't warm yourself up. And if you can't get warm and you can't sleep and you can't eat, hopelessness sets in. And hopelessness will drown you. So please, if you have extras, if the holiday spirits are out when you're at the store, if you have extra, and I know a lot of people don't, help out your fellow person. If you're buying a cup of coffee for yourself, maybe buy one for that person that you saw sitting on the side of the road, because they would greatly appreciate it. If you, have, like I said, if you have a spare dollar, you should give. We're taught to give without any expectations. So if you give it freely, then it doesn't matter to you what they spend it on. But some people, you don't know, they might need that dollar just so they can go buy something at the gas station, which even $1, I don't know if you guys have checked lately, but like what you're going to buy for $1 at the gas station. You can't even buy anything for $1 at the Dollar Tree anymore. It's all gone up. But like they have to buy something in order to use the bathroom, just to go to the bathroom. Because some people have gotten banned from the shelters, banned from the places during the day, because people just don't want them sitting there. Or people just, judge them and punish them because they acted out. But what would you guys do? Would you yell if you tried to get help and you tried to do everything that people told you to do to get help and you still couldn't, and you were freezing and you were starving? So I'm going to keep making videos like this, especially throughout the winter, because I think awareness, we need to have more awareness again about our fellow human beings, like what's happening in our country. Because look up the numbers of homelessness and how much they've increased. There's a point in time count that gets done every year and tells how many. And just where I live, there's hundreds. There's hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's not because they didn't try to get help. There's some that don't anymore, that just say, forget it, I want society to leave me alone. But that's very few. The majority of people are like, I've been trying for a long time. But when things take a long time and I can't get the stuff that I need, I'm reaching the point where I'm just going to give up. So please, have some awareness and help your fellow man, help your fellow citizen so that they can survive not only the winter, but whatever it is that we're still going through. All right? I'll talk to you guys later. And for all my homeless people out there, stay strong. Try to lift each other up. Try to be kind to each other. Because I don't know how long this is going to go on. Bye.